What's up everyone? Coach Tony from Bonvec Strength. Today I'm going to talk about how to keep your butt down when you bench press. So if you're going to compete in powerlifting, your butt has to stay on the bench. Even if you're just lifting in the gym, it's a good idea to hold yourself accountable because butt staying down means that you're using your leg drive effectively. If your butt is coming up, there's some sort of issue with your leg drive or your upper back tightness. So an ability to keep your butt down is a sign of a quality bench press. So keeping your butt down really all comes down to foot position, and you need to find a foot position that simply does not allow your butt to come off the bench. We've really got two different options. Some powerlifting federations require that you keep your heels flat on the ground when you bench press. Others let you be up on your toes with your heels off the ground. So I'll show you both options here. Now, I think that the best way to create leg drive is with your full foot on the floor. That just makes sense. More surface area on the ground, better able to push into the floor and create force to the ground. But with your feet flat on the ground, it is a little harder to keep your butt down. And it's very common to see people have their feet flat on the ground, and then when they go to drive with their legs, their butt comes off the bench. You've got two options here. The first option is to simply get your feet as wide as humanly possible. This wide base is gonna make it very, very hard for your butt to lift up. And a good way to figure that out is before you even lift the bar out of the rack, get your feet as wide as you can, and then simply try to pick your butt up off the bench. I'm trying as hard as I can right now to lift my butt off the bench, and I simply can't. And you see, as I try to push my body backwards, my butt stays anchored, but I get that good push backwards, which is gonna help us with our drive off the chest as well as our bar path. So for me, a wide foot position like this is gonna be ideal for keeping my butt down. Now, for some people that's really uncomfortable to the point where they might get some cramping in their hips. Very hard to bench press a lot of weight if your hips are cramping. The other option here would be to take it the other direction and kind of go pencil dive, feet very far in front of you and hugging the bench with your thighs. Now, if I do this here and I keep that inward pull and push my toes into the front of my shoes if I were wearing any, also very hard for me to lift my butt off the bench. I'm trying to bridge my hips up and I simply can't. So some people don't like this narrow base of support, but it might be your only choice if having a very wide foot position doesn't feel good on your hips. So those are your two options if you're gonna have your feet flat. Get your feet out super wide or get your feet very close together. If you're gonna have your feet hooked back and your heels off the ground, this is generally a little bit easier as far as keeping your butt down. So I'm gonna hook my feet back, and the keys here for keeping your butt down is making sure that your knees are below your hips. So if my feet are out front and my heels are off the ground, but my knees and hips are somewhat even, this isn't really gonna do anything, and this is gonna make it still pretty easy for me to lift my butt off the ground. So I wanna get my feet far enough back that my knees are below my hips. I also want to try to get my feet as close together as possible. Some benches are going to have a middle rail where you don't want to be touching that rail because you're not allowed to touch the bench with your feet in a powerlifting competition. But if you've got space underneath your bench, you can get your feet very, very close together, almost like you're trying to touch your heels together. And if I get my feet back like this, again, it's going to be very, very hard for me to lift my butt off the bench. I'm driving my heels down, I'm trying to bridge my hips up, and I simply can't because I found the right foot position. So, if you're struggling to keep your butt down when you bench press, it really comes down to finding the right foot position where you simply can't lift your butt off the bench.